There's just 1 minute to showtime.
The engines are on.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
When they wrote up the systems and the rule set that we use, did working people get to write a line? What class of men on pen and paper jotted down their clues? With capital, the heart of their design. When 90 million want a thing, but some shareholders say no. Which class of people get to have their way? The people read the fine print, say that this thing has got to go, and we'll start writing a new contract here today. Don't you know that hundreds will work and one man keeps the money? They don't think they gotta tell us why. When they say the new social contract, all the bosses will be gobsmacked and everyone will want a sign. Oh, yeah, everyone will want a sign.
It worked! Hooray! We had some changes on our dashboard recently, and then for the last couple of weeks we had to scramble to try to figure out what's going on. I haven't committed it to memory yet. But hello, cousins. Welcome to program. We're glad to be here with you today on this pre-Thanksgiving show. So maybe if you're listening to us while traveling, or you're about to do whatever it is that you're about to do or not do, it works both ways. So we are in a kind of a weird story time at this point. Sometimes things quiet down around the holidays, but doesn't really seem that that's going to be the case this time. So to help sort some of this stuff out, and just to let you know, we are just people with opinions, because right before air, we were coming on with talking about a story that we just don't understand at all. So we'll be bringing that up later. But as always, I am joined by my talented and illustrious co-host, Mr. Mayor Jared. Hello, Jared.
What is going on, everybody? Happy early Thanksgiving.
Yes.
There is booze in my coffee.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is the first Tuesday, and I think a year that I don't either have to work or I'm out somewhere else. If I am home and in town, Tuesday is my big work day. This is kind of, I guess, this isn't really work, but you know what I mean. This is my big stuff to do day. So I'm just here like, wow. After this, what am I going to do? Whatever I want. Very interesting for a Tuesday.
Yes,
we
because
did all our shopping and stuff yesterday.
Yeah, Jared is if you don't already know, if you're new to program, Jared is a very talented musician, singer, songwriter who performs around the country and around the world, as a matter of fact. And if you heard our theme song just now, that was his fantastic work. So make sure to pick up his music wherever music is sold. And we love to hear it. I don't care how many times I hear it, I'm always singing it or mouthing the words as I'm getting everything going and listening to it. So I enjoy it.
I'm glad you like it. I think my greatest thing is doing like theme song or jingle type things, because I can absolutely fill like 90 seconds with something you'll remember.
I would love it if like you ended up making like commercial jingles or something where it's just like, that was Jared's. I know it. I can tell. Shout out to the chat. Hey to Nathan Coyote and Are You Time Traveler 2. Thank you for joining us on this pre-holiday show. Okay. So let's get into it. A couple of crazy things that have happened. Well, I guess not so crazy. The whole Mamdani Trump throwdown at the White House was very much on brand with how things are going. And if you've seen any of liberal Twitter, which I wish that I hadn't, they've already started the verbal gymnastics about, he's gonna take Trump to. Give me a break. It's not. This was a very much a thing to funnel, liberals back into the red-blue politics and rebrand the Democratic Party. And Trump literally said while they were sitting there side by side that there is no difference between parties. And I think
Remember my
tens
whole
of us.
social fascism theory? I
Yes,
keep
social
talking about?
fascism is exactly what it is. And I think there's been tens of us on the internet telling you that for a very long time. We also saw a video from Marjorie Taylor Greene saying she's going to resign. So either she was told she was going to resign, or she is now finding that she can go the celebrity podcast gambit for that. And then again, we also had this movement, I guess, a motion passed by Democrats to denounce socialism, while at the same time, Mamdani and AOC, the liberal heroes, were telling like everyone, don't primary Hakeem Jeffries. He's really good, actually, and that's couldn't be further from the truth. So those are the kind of stories that we are looking at this time, and hopefully everything will calm down a little bit because holiday. So. Jared, you had something you wanted to read for us, didn't you?
Yeah, this can.
Yes.
This
We'll
is
start
this
there.
is,
That's
this
a good
is
starting
always
point.
relevant. Hooray! This is, guess what? It's Marx. We're reading. This is the. It's hard to say what the quote final chapter of Capital is, because none of this was technically in like what you would call like release conditions. Like Marx died before. Like, oh, here, I'll let you click the buttons. Do you know which of these brings us to the screen that I like? But Marx wrote Capital volumes 1, 2, and 3, as you'll hear him talking about, oh yes, in volume 4, and like in the middle of volume 1, and then there will be an editor note, volume 4 was never completed. And it's like it is a completed work, but he had to, like, after he died, his wife and Engels and people kind of like ran around like, okay, what do we have of all these manuscripts? How do you think he was intending on putting things together? Let's look at his notes, like blah blah. So it's been like cobbled together in that fashion. But this was the last chapter, at least of my copy of Capital, before it goes to the appendices, and it's also appendix. Sorry, just one appendix, not appendices, like Lord of the Rings. This is like relatively short, and it is one of the rare times that you can. Heck, this sure seemed like a thing where if you just kind of threw this at somebody who's like, how do I get into this? Like, what's the whole idea? What can you summarize in a few paragraphs what's going on with all this? The historical tendency of capitalist accumulation. This is Marx actually putting out like here's some stuff in general terms for a change. Here's some. It's not even predictive because it's historical. It's just looking at what has happened historically. But that's the only basis that we have to work off of if you're a historical materialist like me, and you base current strategies and your vision of reality and how we got here, etc., on what has happened in the past, because that's all we really have. You can sit there and think many wonderful ideas of what like could be and what ought to be, but if you want to look at what actually like can be and is and how it got there, you're essentially stuck with history. That's all we got. All we have is what happened. We don't have any of these imaginary worlds, even though it is nice to imagine worlds. So I'm just going to read through this thing because I freaking love it. What does the primitive accumulation of capital, i.e. its historical genesis, resolve into? Primitive accumulation would be like the precursor to capitalism, because at some point we didn't have like big industry and like the centralization of capital, etc., like we have under capitalism. At some point, if you go back far enough in history to around the 13-ish hundreds, between the 13 and 1600s is when it was kind of like crystallizing. It's like, well, how do you initially accumulate wealth? Because once you have some wealth, that can then it just kind of like grows. You can spiral upward from there. But how do you have your accumulation in the first place? So he talks about primitive accumulation, i.e. it's historical. What does it resolve into? How does this eventually turn out once dudes start gathering more and more stuff? You could call it hoarding, you can call it whatever. But pre-capitalist accumulation, how does it work itself out? Insofar as it is not immediate transformation of slaves and serf into wage laborers, and therefore a mere change of form, it only means the expropriation of the immediate producers, i.e. the dissolution of private property based on the labor of its owner. Private property, as the antithesis to social, collective property, exists only where the means of labor and the external conditions of labor belong to private individuals. But according as these private individuals are laborers or not laborers, private property has a different character. I'm doing great this morning. The numberless shades that it at first sight presents correspond to the intermediate stages lying between these two extremes. So we talk about the kind of property where I made it so it's mine, and the I am a wage laborer working on behalf of XYZ person, and therefore it is their private property. If you work at Applebee's, you do not own the product of the work you do for Applebee's. No, that's all Apple. James B. or whoever owns Applebee's is the private owner of that private property. Even if their company is publicly traded, blah, blah, blah. There's all kinds of things you can like add to that. All right. The private property of the laborer in his means of production is the foundation of petty industry, small industry, whether agricultural, manufacturing, or both. Petty industry, again, is an essential condition for the development of social production and of the free individuality of the laborer himself. Marx is even saying, like, dude, if you have to make every single thing you need specifically you for if you have to make your own clothes and your own shoes and your own blah, 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 it's like you don't really have... You aren't free in the sense that you don't have time. It's like, no, social production is good. Like, it gives you freaking free time. Communism, free time, nothing only. Of course, this petty mode of production exists also under slavery, serfdom, and other states of dependence, but it flourishes. It lets loose its whole energy. It attains its adequate classical form only where the laborer is the private owner of his own means of labor set in action by himself. If you're a slave, you don't own your own labor. Your labor is already...
Interesting how that works.
Right? Like if you're a slave, you can't do capitalism with slavery because the conditions of capitalism require a class of laborer who owns nothing but their own labor. And if you're a slave or a serf, you don't own your own labor. That is, you already owe that, even though it hasn't happened yet, to your king or your slave master or whatever it is through history. But it flourishes, lets loose its whole energy, attains its adequate classical form only where the laborer is the private owner of his own means of labor set in action by himself, the peasant of the land which he cultivates, the artisan of the tool which he handles as a virtuoso. This mode of production presupposes parceling of the soil and scattering of the other means of production. It also excludes... it excludes cooperation, division of labor within each separate process of production, the control over and the productive application of the forces of nature by society, and the free development of the social productive powers. It is compatible only with a system of production and a society moving within narrow and more or less primitive bounds to perpetuate it. It would be, as Pecure rightly says, to decree universal mediocrity. At a certain stage of development, it brings forth the material agencies for its own dissolution. After we've been doing this, like, agricultural thing that we've been doing for most of humanity's history, eventually, it brings forth the material agencies for its own dissolution. From that moment, new forces and new passions spring up in the bosom of society, but the old social organization fetters them and keeps them down. It must be annihilated. It is annihilated. Its annihilation, the transformation of the individualized and scattered means of production into socially concentrated ones, of the pygmy property of the many into the huge property of the few, the expropriation of the great mass of the people from the soil, from the means of subsistence, and from the means of labor. This fearful and painful expropriation of the mass of the people forms the prelude to the history of capital. You have to rip everyone's shit away from them, so all they own is their labor, and they must sell their labor to work. That is what makes the concentration of all this stuff even possible. You can't have a big factory with 1,000 people who are desperate to work and will work in the worst conditions imaginable, don't care because all they have is their labor, if they are all private small farmers who can just grow their own food and just grow their own this, and I have a cow and everything's fine. No, you have to pull them out of their house and get them to go to the... And it's not because a council of evil does it, it's just development. It's just how society historically has developed. Not because it has to, not because any god made it that way, but that's like what's happened, and it's reproduced many times. That's why I lend credence to historical materialism more so than just like, I don't know, guessing. That's the alternative to me seems like you're guessing and making shit up. All right. It comprises a series of forcible methods, of which we have passed in review only those that have been epoch-making as methods of the primitive accumulation of capital. He's talking about how the chapter before he goes down the British laws that legally made this, legally enforced it. It's not just like, we want, it's no. Parliament has decided. Like, they had vagrancy laws where like, look, if you're not working in a factory, we're allowed to kill you. Like, it was like the punishment after like 2 offenses was just hanging. They cut off part of your ear for the first one. I was going to read that chapter instead because it's just fucking horrifying. You're like, in 1590, King Edward V said that if you are discovered twice to be idle for more than 3 days, you shall be put to death. And it's like, oh, okay.
Fantastic.
Also, you couldn't leave. You weren't allowed to leave. If you tried to leave England, also illegal. It's like a slavery clause on the entire freaking country. It's weird. It's not just that, like, oh, these captains of industry were so clever and they offered a wage that inspired the people to come work at the factory. Oh no. They were legally required by the crown to industrialize at some point because the people who were making the rules, guess what? They own businesses, they owned industries. It benefited them to do this, so they did it. It's not just some weird thing that came out of nowhere. It helps them, so they do it. All right. The expropriation of the immediate producers was accomplished with merciless vandalism and under the stimulus of passions the most infamous, the most sordid, the pettiest, the most meanly odious. This is as mean as Marx can get. He almost said fuck there. Self-earned private property that is based, so to say, on the fusing together of the isolated, independent laboring individual with the conditions of his labor is supplanted by capitalistic private property, which rests on exploitation of the nominally free labor of others, i.e. on wage labor. We are more than halfway done. I will stop commentating. As soon as this process of transformation has sufficiently decomposed the old society from top to bottom, as soon as the laborers are turned into proletarians, their means of labor into capital, as soon as the capitalist mode of production stands on its own feet, then the further socialization of labor and the further transformation of the land and other means of production into socially exploited and therefore common means of production, as well as the further expropriation of private proprietors, takes a new form. That which is now to be expropriated is no longer the laborer working for himself, but the capitalist exploiting many laborers. This expropriation is accomplished by the action of the immanent laws of capitalistic production itself, by the centralization of capital. One capitalist always kills many. He's like, okay, initially you got random farmers, then they get kind of centralized into businesses. Then some businesses get really big and start fucking wiping out other businesses. The sentence gets concentrated. If Marx knew that today Vanguard and BlackRock exist how they do, he'd be like, oh, I was a fool. I was a tiny child anticipating that only this much centralization of capital could take place. Holy shit, you guys overtook all of my wildest dreams. I was talking about it might be down to only a few 100,000 owners. Like, no, it's down to like 4. There's like 4 people. Okay.
Yeah, it's way worse than you thought it could be.
Hand in hand with this centralization or this expropriation, because it's just taking shit from people. That's expropriation. We're taking of many capitalists by few, develop on an ever-extending scale the cooperative form of the labor process, the conscious technical application of science, the methodical cultivation of the soil, the transformation of instruments of labor into instruments of labor only usable in common. You cannot run an Amazon factory by your dang self. You need a lot of people. The economizing of all means of production by their use as means of production of combined socialized labor, the entanglement of all peoples in the net of the world market, and with this, the international character of the capitalistic regime, along with constantly diminishing number of the magnates of capital, fewer and fewer people, who usurp and monopolize all advantages of this process of transformation, grows the massive misery, oppression, slavery, degradation, exploitation. But with this too grows the revolt of the working class, a class always increasing in numbers and disciplined, united, organized by the very mechanism of the process of capitalistic production itself. The monopoly of capital becomes a fetter upon the mode of production, which has sprung up and flourished along with and under it. Centralization of the means of production and the socialization of labor at last reach a point where they become incompatible with their capitalist integument. This integument is burst asunder. That's where we are now. We're right at this point. Is burst asunder.
Yeah.
The knell of capitalist private property sounds. The death knell, meaning he's dying. The expropriators are expropriated. Last bit. The capitalist mode of appropriation, the result of the capitalist mode of production, produces capitalist private property. This is the first negation of individual private property. You have your individual stuff. You work for what you own. And then eventually the system comes along and says, what are you, crazy? You work for McDonald's. McDonald's owns everything that you do. That was already bought and paid for before you even walked in the door. We had already contracted that, no, this is ours. So it becomes capitalist private property. It's still private property, though. If you are trespassing in a McDonald's, the cops show up and say, what? Hey, this is private property. You have to leave. Like, that's what we mean by capitalistic private property. This is the first negation of individual private property, as founded on the labor of the proprietor. But capitalist production begets, with the inexorability of a law of nature, its own negation. It's not because people want to do this. There's no other option in the way that things develop. It has to hit the, like... It is the negation of negation. This does not re-establish private property for the producer, like in the old form, but gives him individual property based on the acquisition of the capitalist era, i.e. on cooperation and the possession in common of the land and the means of production. What else is socialism than cooperation and the possession in common of the land and the means of production? The transformation of scattered private property arising from individual labor into capitalist private property is, naturally, a process incomparably more protracted, more violent, and difficult than the transformation of capitalistic private property, already practically resting on socialized production, into socialized property. In the former case, we had the expropriation of the mass of people by a few usurpers. In the latter, we have the expropriation of a few usurpers by the mass of the people.
Yeah. So if you're a capitalist, if you're Vanguard, and if you're BlackRock, then you kind of don't want to give that up. So that's, now we're all a lot smarter about where all
before the trick was that you had to get 5 guys, burger and fries, to convince everyone that they should like become not convince, because remember, it was through extremely violent means, through laws, the equivalent of the cops in the 1500s running around, like they were branding people with V for vagrant, and then if you were caught and you had that V, they killed you because that was your 2 strikes, sorry, you're dead. Like, and that's just for not going to work in the worst conditions imaginable. Like even compared to today's conditions, if you're a 1600s farm laborer, oh my god, and you own nothing. And how much harder was it to get that huge concentration down to just a couple of people, as opposed to what we're going for now, which is a couple of people versus the entire world? Like
there's a board game that reflects this very, very scenario. Maybe you've heard of it, called Monopoly, where you get yourself a monopoly, and that's what we're looking at this point. And the laws have been further and further relaxed to allow for this kind of thing to happen, because when these companies get so big, they can just pay their way into it, and that's what we're complaining about all the time. So you see where what we said earlier about how the Democrats put forward this motion to denounce socialism, i.e. capital or communism. They're the same thing. The terms are interchangeable.
We denounce the future development of man.
Right. Yeah. No. They're trying to put caps on that right now. And right now, you also
gotta hold us in a stasis.
Yeah,
forever.
That's exactly right. Or they're going to lose capital. And again, that's why you'll also hear us talking about, okay, that's why they're making all the jobs are going away. Nobody can afford houses. There's homelessness on the rise. Then there's food prices and that, which drives people into crime, which puts people into the prison system, which puts people, like, gives them the opportunity to turn those people into slaves for every single major corporation that you can imagine, from McDonald's to Nabisco. Like they're all benefiting in some way from doing that, because it was, like, in the 1600s, so much easier to just force people to do shit. So we're doing that sort of by the letters at this point. And then when the Democrats waste time sitting around going, we're denouncing socialism, it's because that they're getting, we know what they're benefiting from. They're benefiting from these corporations that are paying them to put forward this kind of legislation. Or just even a statement to be like, this is where we stand. And you've heard them a million times be like, we're capitalists. I'm a capitalist. Capitalism is what we have. Where it is in direct defiance of what most people want at this point, because we are living in hell, and it's just a new version of the old version. And that's what Jared smartly thought to point out to us today, that the precedent is there. The precedent's there. So everything you see now being done has already been done over and over and over again. So we're wondering now how long until you get your vagrancy brand, because you've been out of work for a certain amount of time. But that's what we're, it's all the same stuff. And then what we just saw recently is, in the big bullshit bill, part of that was, which actually Marjorie Taylor Greene was opposed to. And every time we have to mention her in a positive way, it makes our skin crawl. Hopefully we won't have to talk about her that much longer. But that she was opposed to the fact that they had put into the bill that there would be no regulations on AI for 10 years at least. I wonder who paid for that, right? The same people shoving it down our throats. So now they're trying to, as states are trying to do their own regulations, the White House is trying to come out and Trump's cabinet is trying to come out and say, no, you can't do that. That's not allowed. We're not allowed letting you do that. So now the battle begins between states' rights and federal oversight. So, and at the same time as people are starting to become more cognizant of this and are fighting off data centers in their neighborhoods. So we're at a people versus the state versus the federal government, and right at a point where things definitely can get worse. But exactly where Jared's reading said that we were, this has been done before. So I guess since we just talked about Marjorie Taylor Greene, we could kind of hopefully end that story.
Totally.
Yeah, but she, we don't, there's times that we have, because we're living, bizarro world here. There's times that we've had to quote her and we've had to quote Tucker Carlson and, even Matt Gaetz at one point, and that was maybe the worst thing ever to have to do. But she announced a couple days ago saying that she would be resigning by January. And as we said before on the show, there are people like these people are essentially puppets, and they're told what to say, they're told what to do, they're told what to tweet, they're told what to say and how to say it, and that's why so much of their stuff lines up like almost word for word, that you'll see that kind of stuff. People will bring that up and be like, what does this mean? It means that people are controlling what they're saying and doing, and that they took the money from. So the question kind of exists of is she being forced out, by her handlers, by her whoever, she's no longer servicing, or is she trying to, go the political to commentator pipeline? Because really all this is about with every political figure is just trying to, be a celebrity without any skill or talent. So that's where we are.
I sent you a message. It was one of the things I tweeted where I'm like, in a funny way, not in a funny way, literally, with Marjorie Taylor Greene retiring, we lose one of the strongest anti-Israel voices in Congress, which is true. It's her
world.
and Massey, and that's it. And
Right.
Massey has his own shit. I don't trust him. Marge has her own shit. Don't necessarily but who else? AOC is voting for Iron Dome funding.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's new hero, Zoran Mamdani, is like, Israel has a right to exist. Like, all this, like, what? Okay.
Right, and that's coming from Democrats who, and again,
socialists.
People don't understand why the left is always so hard on Democrats. Like, well, the right's in charge. They're the ones doing it. They're dickheads. They're not worth arguing with. We don't care. The people who should know better and be the party of resistance are supposed to be the Democrats. They are supposed to resist each other, but they don't because they're the same. And it literally came out of Trump's mouth during the bro down at the White House with Mamdani. He literally, people are saying he said the quiet part out loud. It's like, what quiet part? That's what's happening. Like, that's what's been happening. So yeah, she was oddly an anti.
She was the only one putting forth the "Hey, fuck Israel" bill that no one would vote on. Why is AOC not putting the "Hey, let's get some healthcare" bill?
Right. Yeah. Remember how that went? Yeah. And the chat, Time Traveler says MTG insider trading. She set herself up. I hadn't heard about that yet, but usually that like they all do that. So eventually that's like people don't even care anymore of that kind of thing. The thing that sent Martha Stewart to jail. A couple decades ago is like basically not even on anybody's radar anymore at this point. So my theory is that she just kind of saw how people like Matt Gaetz are doing, where they just kind of go and make their own podcast, and then they make tons of money, and then they could chase the celebrity of it all. But and maybe that would be better for her. Honestly, I don't really care what's good for her. But the point is if she is going to be anti-Israel, and if she's going to make these very these statements that are just like the lowest bar possible, like the lowest, like because things are so bad, it's just like, hey, shit should be better. It's like the lowest comment like that you should make. Hey, maybe we shouldn't not regulate AI totally. That's probably a bad thing, right? Or hey, maybe people should have healthcare ? Like these are like the bottom topics. So maybe she'll do something better with that. But I don't really necessarily feel like she was really contributing all that much to being in Congress other than just being a distraction. I guess we'll see where all that goes, and that's kind of what they all are at this point. With the aspect of social media, is it's really just to distract you and to keep you busy and confused. And one person says one thing, and they're on the wrong team to say that, and then another person that you should be saying it doesn't say it, says the opposite. That's where we kind of are. Thoughts, Mr. Mayor Jared?
There continue to be the world, people are talking about like the breakdown in MAGA now, and yes, Trump has now exited MAGA. He is no longer interested in pretending to follow an agenda of making America great, which entails stopping foreign wars. Not even stopping foreign wars, just starting funding. It's not our business. Go ahead, have a war, Israel. Israel should be able to. I believe Israel has a right to fight as many wars as it wants, just not with my money. And that's all the farther Marge ever was going either. Like I don't actually follow Marjorie Taylor Greene's life that much, and she pops up occasionally because whenever there's a hey, here's a resolution that actually sounds kind of cool, it's like, oh cool, who did that? Oh, it's Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey. They're the only people who ever do any of that kind of stuff. But there continue to be opportunities for people to show themselves as, are you in this because you actually want to stop foreign wars, invest in American economy, like give us a real economy, et cetera, or do you just want to win elections and you're going to say whatever like the popular thing to say is currently? Because if you're a baseline GOP or Dem right now, you're all kind of supposed to be in agreement. You're supposed to be in agreement about a shocking number of things. Heck, we just had only one no vote to releasing the Epstein files with like 10,000 caveats. That's where this whole big fight with MTG started in the last week or so. She was out there saying you got to release, and she never even went to was never like quote mean to Trump. Even she always phrases these things very carefully. She's like, look, Trump, I know you want to do the right thing. I know you're a great guy, but and they had a public falling out where she nicely, she screenshotted her text message. She just texted him. She's like, hey, man, remember, there's a lot of Democrats in the Epstein files. Come on. Because I think, weirdly, she seems to be one of the honest Congress people where whatever she says she believes, she seems to just go with. She seems to genuinely believe that Trump's a good guy, he's not in the Epstein files, or if he is, it's fake, whatever, and that he's in there trying to earnestly shut down these foreign wars, stop funding for XYZ, do the things that he was elected to do. And I don't know if it just hit her that no, that's not what's happening. This is politics and a game, and Trump can only go to a certain point before he's like, oh shit, they shot at me last time. I wasn't doing what the establishment wanted me to do. I guess I'll knock that off. Here, everyone, I'm gonna build a wing of the White House or whatever. Also, here's $1 quadrillion to Israel. Here's the biggest military budget we've ever had. We're starting new wars. We're blowing up random Venezuelan fishermen.
Every kind of distraction possible. Everything meant to keep you from actually seeing what's going on. Except that the more that they try to distract from it, the more obvious that it is. And we have been covering the Epstein story because how can you not? That's what's been going on this whole time. And then now, to bring up to speed, it's like, oh yeah, well they agreed almost unanimously to release the files, but under the auspice of Pam Bondi, who gets to decide what gets released and what doesn't.
Has 10,000 caveats. Everybody gets to censor
under the idea of if it threatens national security. People have been saying all along that it's being scrubbed. He's, and we know, we talked about this a little bit a while back, that Trump hasn't been a successful president as presidents go, but he's been the most commercially successful president in that he just straight up says, hey, you want me to wipe your name out of the Epstein file? Here's my bank account number. Route the money right now. Shit that would be, people, I obviously we're no Obama fans here, but if he'd have done shit like that, that would have been the hugest scandal in the world. He's doing pay to play. He said he erased somebody's name out of something so they wouldn't get in trouble, and they literally paid him. Here's the money that says with the receipt, thanks for erasing my name from the Epstein files, with a smiley face. It's the exact same,
while neither of them are criticized for drone striking a wedding or some shit. Nobody, the Dems no, that's good actually. We
need to do that more. We should do more warring.
When he's talking about going to war with Venezuela, all the Dems were you know what? Today he became a president. What was it? It was some in his first administration, he bombed somebody, and all the Dems literally. So I think it was freaking Nancy. She's like, today he became a president.
Oh my God, yes, they love to throw that stupid shit around. It's such it's such bullshit, and that's why all these other stories are basically happening. And Jared, has a point here. She might be resigning because now it's like, okay, well, it has been brought to my attention that he really is guilty in all of this. There's no winning in Congress. I came here to do an honest dickhead job, and
they might have said we're gonna shoot you. Like it sure seems to be happening more and more. I mean, Jesus Christ, they gunned down Charlie Kirk because he was like, maybe Israel dead. Like,
dead.
Yeah.
Get
him out of there.
That's the thing of it too. It's like, yeah, that's what we kind of talked at the top of the show. Is this because she is chasing, the celebrity podcast dreams where you say what I want and I retain my audience, or is this the people above her are like, you need to resign now? And we're not asking.
She's certainly not unpopular. I kind of expected it to come out like in the next day, like, cause I'm running for Senate or cause I'm running for president or something.
Yeah, and that's because there's always some sort of celebrity bent to everything like that. So it could go either way. We could see it could go both ways. She, not so subtly was told it's time to resign. But also she'll get to go into podcasting where she can say what she wants and then it won't have any actual political consequence one way or the other. And unfortunately, I think we had to talk about her way too much today and way too much on this show. But what's more, I think, important, more relevant, is the Mamdani story, because so many people have the Feld for It Again award. And, I think when we bring that up, when leftists bring that up, yeah, we're very frustrated with the people who are willing to just throw everything away and put their hopes and dreams into the next guy. This guy's going to save us. Remember when liberals were literally coming out of their mouth, Biden's going to save us? Like, that was like maybe the most horrific shit that I remember hearing during the Biden election. Quote unquote. There we go again about people controlling things. The lizard people. No, the point is that he, from before he was even elected, he started surrounding himself with Democratic operatives, doing things that were oh God, it's so gross. Doing things. You are muted, my friend. There you go.
There he is. This is our guy.
Yeah, there's your guy. And it's like, okay, we understand the impetus. Like, was it this guy or was it Cuomo? What were you going to do? Obviously, it's got to be this guy. But again, this is the mayor.
Oh, Cuomo wouldn't have met with Trump.
No. Yeah, even though Trump was like throwing his support behind Cuomo, which is why he didn't get, probably, part of the reason he didn't get elected. But again, we see Mamdani having won in a landslide.
Thank God we didn't vote for one of these fascist collaborators that's going to work with Trump.
Oh yeah, of course. And then we see Mamdani's numbers. He wins, and he popular. Let's talk popularity. Popularity is like a landslide of a difference between him and the Siwa and Cuomo. And of course, like, what option do you have if you're going to participate in these party politics? So we get it. But at the same time, the left has been telling you since day one about this guy, like, he is, the owls are not what they seem here, okay? Because this is not a good thing. Like, this is a way to funnel people who are disillusioned and headed towards socialism and communism and not wanting to participate in this stuff, to rebrand the Democratic Party and put them into a situation where they'll do whatever he says because now he's the cool guy and you got to listen to him. It didn't work with Bernie. It didn't work with AOC. So now they're banking on this guy. They're like, hey, you can't say bad things about him because this guy's a Muslim, and that would make you racist, and that would make you xenophobic if you said anything. He's doing.
I saw that. I want to think you're like being silly. No, I saw that exact fucking thing said. Like, hey, it seems kind of like, don't we call people fascists when they ally with Trump? And they're like, well, he's brown. Literally, that's the words they said. They said he is brown and he cannot be a fascist. It's like, weren't the fucking Japanese fascist? Are they white now?
Right, yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, we have Nella Nostrum in the comments says, I put my faith in people, but they don't make it easy because they keep putting their faith in all the wrong places and all the wrong people. LOL. LOL. And that's exactly true, because if there had been any serious legitimacy, like if he really was going to be like, fuck the system, we're rebranding, we're redoing, he'd have been shot at one of his things.
He wouldn't win. Oh, some weird thing would have emerged, like Zoran, or child pornography or some
right,
shit.
Exactly,
like something would have popped up.
Some sort of planted, suddenly, like, they would be FBI raiding his house.
I was Zoran's girlfriend and he smacked me. Like, something would come.
Or something on his computers, like FBI shows up and Like, oh, he has questionable materials on his computers, and then they
Chuck
like start being
Schumer
like,
said they got 6 ways to Sunday to get you, meaning the intelligence community. If they
right.
don't like you, you just disappear.
Hmm.
And if you're looking at Trump, well, people don't like Trump. Trump represented, past tense, a rift within the rulers where some of the rulers like, this is the best way to do capitalism. They're like, no, this is the best way. Like, that's what it is. It's not a fight about should or shouldn't we continue our effed up system. It's how do we best do it. And there was a disagreement within that, which is probably why Trump is like, still alive and the president. And I really do not think they thought he was going to win the first time. I think with Kamala, hopefully they freaking knew something, but that would
Well,
be giving him a lot of credit.
and he's the ultimate smokescreen. All of this nonsense and bullshit and bluster and pay to play and Epstein. Like, okay, like these people don't, from his remaining supporters to the people in charge, they, the corporations, the people with actual real money, like they don't give a shit about this Epstein stuff. They don't care a fucking second about victim stuff. They don't care about the tabloid stuff about, oh, who's Bubba. They don't give a fuck about any of that shit. They don't care. All that is like everybody now running in circles, being distracted about it while they continue to do their bullshit right out in the open and like do something about it. We live basically in a bully culture where we're underneath, like everybody, serves this capital that we don't benefit from, but somebody at the top does, and to the point where our government is entirely compromised and made up of people who are not allowed to actually govern. And maybe that's what Marjorie Taylor Greene found out. But I'm telling you that Mamdani found that out like right away when he was either picked or groomed for this position, or this could go all the way back to when he was like fledgling rap career, right? They're like let's get this guy, like he's aiming towards politics, let's groom him into place and put him into place.
He's just another rich kid who
right,
is
yeah,
like, let's do this for fun. That's why I'm sure that's what Trump thinks. He's like, oh, this is like my kid's friends. I know this guy.
right, and that's what happened with AOC. People thought that like they portrayed her as being this real like boots on the ground, I'm one of you type.
She's a bartender.
Yeah, she works at a bar. She co-owned that bar, and she had a background in. She was a CIA
hanging out with the
out of
CIA,
college. Like, and everybody kept that shit secret. And then they made anytime anybody said anything about her, like there was this big uproar about like she was like in college, and there was a video, and she was like dancing around, and like the people that called that out were like, well, this is for the CIA. And they were like, oh, so a girl can't dance. Oh, that's your problem with this? She can't dance. Come on, get real. So like they act like everybody's stupid that points out this shit that, where people come from really actually matters. And when that her, the facade started to crumble on her, then we start to see like, oh, actually she's it was in some pretty dark shit. She groomed to be in this position, and it didn't work. At the time they bet on woman power, like empowering women and women's voices, and they just made the wrong bet, these people. And it sounds like, again, like with Trump, they made the wrong bet there. And they thought that would work again if they tried it with Kamala Harris, and it again did not work. So now we have the new thing is Mamdani, and it's not going to work. And it went very quickly from saying that he was going to be Trump's worst nightmare to like this weird gross smiley handshakes and stuff like that, and then Trump saying there's no differences between the parties, and and he's not even in office yet. I'd like to point that out.
Neil Ho makes a good point in the chat where he's like, why do we focus so much on Mamdani? Most of us are not from New York City, and he has no direct control over our lives. I don't care about Mamdani because I think he specifically has all that much power. In fact, like before the election, you'll remember I was talking about how it's like, why do we give a shit what any of them think about Israel? They're the mayor of a city. They have very little that they can actually control about any international anything. Maybe we should be talking about New York problems, and why do we even care? It's because this is kind of like a litmus test. I don't know, taking the temperature of how people feel, and the fact that so many quote left, the pan left, the I don't really know anything, but I kind of think that people should have health care, which is nice. Those are nice people. I like those people on a personal level, but if you're talking about like political movements and what it's directed by, it shows that, oh, they'll fall for Obama again, just like they did in 2008. In fact, they're going to fall for it harder. Yes. Even harder. Everybody makes fun of MAGA doing this fell for it again award shit. It's like, guys, at least Trump shook up the formula a little. They have had the exact same formula and thrown it at you like 9 times, and every time you're like, yes, we love this slop. This is the
Yes.
way we're gonna solve the whole world. Cory Booker, yeah, like it's definitely gonna solve everything. And it's like, why are you all saying this when the second your guy gets anywhere near power, what's he doing? Is he being Trump's worst nightmare? Is he shoving through? Is he starting to primary everybody? No, he's keeping the same chief of police before he's even in office. These are L's he does not need to take yet. He is not even in office yet. He could lie. He's like, no, we're going to keep the same NYPD person. You're like, well, wouldn't it be weird if he fired? No. Every single mayor chooses their own chief of police. It's a very normal thing. It's like effing Biden with the postmaster general. He could just change him whenever he wants. But
absolutely.
No, then you would lose being able to yell about DeJoy. You can't have DeJoy be this boogeyman if you don't get rid of him.
Wait
so
for him to resign after completely destroying the post office and taking away all the mailboxes in the fucking country.
They made the post office much more close to profitable, though. So as far as everyone is concerned, DeJoy was a massive success. That's why he would not replace him. Why will he not replace this NYPD chief? Because she is a huge success in the view of the machine. What is the biggest reason we care about this? Why does any of this matter about anything? Well, currently, the NYPD does a lot of training exercises with the Israeli Defense Force. And one of the things that Zohan campaigned on, talked about back when he was making up lies in 2022, 23, 24, etc., was that he, of course, would, get rid of that. That's insane. Why are we working with Israel for our local New York police? Well, turns out, now he's fine with her. He's just going to keep her. So we're going to keep having our IDF NYPD.
IDF
like,
training.
that's an easy one. Who gives a... Well, what if the police force gets mad at the mayor? Why did you become a government person if you didn't want to change anything? This is just AOC again. And now is not the time. And guess when the time is? Never.
Yeah, there's the liberal argument. But also, to even further than that, maybe we wouldn't give so much of a shit about New York, except that New York kind of is the proxy of representing America. That is sort of
our most populous city.
Yeah, it's and the NYPD is larger than some countries' militaries. So yeah, it matters a little bit. It's a little bit more important than like what Omaha thinks, right? So like that's why we need to, we are. And it also, again, as Jared said, it is a litmus test. It is speaking for how people are feeling, and by seeing how quickly they can take all these.
What do people think change is? It's a different race of man. That's it. That's what change is. The most change we can have is a skin shade, a skin tone change. The policy can never change. We might be able to have a woman or a different complexioned person. Those are the only types of change you are ever allowed to have.
Yeah, and he's like the new version of that, where AOC failed and trying to use Kamala Harris failed, and
it would be sexist of him to fire the chief of police.
Right? Yeah, and then that's where the liberal gymnastics come into the whole thing. So the reason New York matters more than like literally anywhere else, and it's the same reason as Los Angeles, but people automatically see Los Angeles as being liberal and blue and no matter what, but it can go either way when we're talking about New York. So the reason that's more important than maybe anywhere else is that
it's a pay article. I'm not going to do it.
No, it tells you where the country is like feeling. That's sort of showing you where the idea is, and like how fast that they could take somebody that seems on the world scale like nobody, but on the national scale a big deal, and they can make a folk hero out of them. And then I'll say, okay, well, if you love me and you love the things I've been saying, and you're not paying any actual attention to these things, then you're not going to notice that I'm getting you back into blue politics and telling you don't primary Hakeem Jeffries. So that is why he matters, and that's why this matters.
Chi is not the right candidate. You see, he had a well, then fucking pick somebody else. Go for Jose Vega. Jose Vega is a guy who thinks that he's a LaRouche guy. He thinks that I'm a fucking moron for thinking that Marx knows some things. But I still would rather have Jose Vega winning that shit than Hakeem Jeffries or any of them, actually. Like, freaking put him in there. Jose's funny.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too. I think that anybody that is not a Democrat, or part of the Uniparty in general, is like, no, Hakeem Jeffries is a dog, like a dog shit leader, and he needs to be replaced and primaried. But that doesn't necessarily mean, that there exists someone that is going to do that. But if, we get the hero will riseism with somebody else and somebody does, it means that it's been chosen. But the choice has been made for them, which is, okay, now go out there and tell them, as your first active public guy. The guy's public. The public's guy, I should say, that we're not going to do that and get everybody behind it. And the AOC is like, yeah, we're not going to do that. And everybody's like, shut the fuck up. Nobody even listens to you anymore.
I do
We
want
listen
to point out,
Mamdani now.
just with the primary thing, I just want to point out that the guy, I don't know if it's she, I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce their name, but the candidate that he's like poo-pooing is like, no, he needs to say a local, now is not the time, which is what he said. That guy was a, quote, creator for Kamala. So he was fully out. He there's a video floating around where he's like, you know, they asked me to be a delegate for Biden and I said no, but I am now a creator for Kamala. I mean, like a month later, because it's in between when Biden got like kicked out of the race by his own party. So the guy who's too scary and too socialist and too communist to primary Hakeem Jeffries is a creator for Kamala who's fully down with the whole party everything. Even other snake opportunists are not good enough. Why? Because she does not pull in the kind of money that Hakeem Jeffries does. Hakeem Jeffries is a very good fundraiser, and that is why he has his seat. That guy doesn't have a thought in his fucking head.
Yeah, and doesn't pose a threat to anybody. He will not oppose anyone for any reason. But that's why this matters. That's why it's all, it is really a literal melting pot of point of views and scenarios here. And then we kind of have this last kind of thing that we're both kind of scratching our heads on. And this may also play into that in a way that we don't really see just yet. But chat, come at us with your best thoughts on this one.
Before I do that, I just want to read. Social fascism was a theory developed by the Communist Internet. The core idea is that social democrats were not genuine socialists, but rather a variant of fascism that used social policies to maintain capitalist control and prevent a proletarian revolution. Please, bro, don't do a revolution. We'll talk about giving you a publicly owned grocery store. Please don't ever do anything. Maybe there will be a free bus.
How about a free bus ride? Yeah.
But that won't ever fucking happen.
No, that won't materialize.
But we'll talk about it.
Yes, we'll talk about it forever and ever and ever. Like we'll talk about healthcare forever and ever and ever. But until it becomes so unfeasible, it's so unpopular, and the Democrats keep losing and losing and losing, they're going to have to move the chains on that one. It's just not going to be anytime soon. And then that's kind of again what I was just about to bring up. So again, chat, sound off on this because we're both really confused on this topic. Like
I don't know what any of this means.
Yeah, you'd think that we would try to like understood this better if we were going to bring it up, but I want to bring it up because I'm like, what does this ultimately mean? So, and where did I post it? I've got it somewhere. No, I can't think of. Oh yeah, no, it was in our chat. I want to pull it up and look at it. Okay, so, come on, load. So, okay, the White House apparently has said, or the Department of Education has said this past week that a list of degrees at Department of Education will reclassify.
It's Vince McMahon's wife. I just fucking remembered. The Department of Education is run by Vince McMahon's wife.
Of wrestling. So the Department of Education will reclassify and no longer consider professional degrees, education, including teaching master's degrees, nursing degrees, including MSN and DNP, social work, MSW and DSW, public health, MPH, or doctor of public health, physician's assistant, occupational therapy, physical therapy, audiology, speech language pathology, business masters, engineering masters, and counseling and therapy degrees.
Business masters, good call.
What does that mean?
Good call in business. It's a fake degree, and you should go to hell if you haven't.
You don't get to say anything about anything. You're like, no.
MBA people, get out of my face. I never want to hear you.
Like, okay, the question I think that we have about this is they're saying they're not considering them professional degrees. So does that mean that they're trying to say that, well, I think
I actually figured it out. I'm surprised that it's what this is, because you'd be like, wait, they don't want that. Trump admin plans to exclude nursing from professional degrees sparks outcry because I guess the categorization of a degree as a quote professional degree affects how many loans you can take out.
Oh, it's about
and I'm like, wouldn't you want them to take more? Isn't the whole goal of all this banker nonsense to get us 50-year mortgages, right? I thought we were supposed to be in debt forever.
Right.
It stands from a change authorized by the Big Beautiful Bill, which introduced a new cap on borrowing for higher education starting July 1st, 2026. Students enrolled in professional degree programs professional degree. That's why who's categorized as a professional degree. Professional degree programs will be restricted to borrowing $50,000 per year with a $200,000 lifetime cap. Students in graduate programs that aren't deemed professional, that's why this matters, will be subject to an additional cap of only $20,500 and a lifetime limit of $100,000. You're
So then
only allowed to spend $100,000 on your master's degree.
Okay, if it's just about like loans, then I'm still kind of confused about that, because ultimately it's like, okay, so you say like I can't pursue that degree then because I can't afford those loans, or I won't be able to take out those loans. So does that make it is this sort of like maybe I'm getting to conspiracy theory, but is this like a backdoor way of trying to say like these jobs, a lot of them are going away to AI, but if we say that, people are going to get pissed. So we have to act like, oh, you can't go because we don't want you taking out this many loans, blah, blah, blah. But
They
because
just don't
the
want
jobs
poor
are going to
people
get
be
phased
nurses.
out.
It's
What's
like
that?
they don't want poor people to be nurses. Is the way
Right.
this
Yeah.
sounded.
Like I'm so confused about the motivation behind any of this. And I don't know what exactly that we're really even talking about, because
All right. The goal of the changes, at least the stated goal, is to ensure that borrowers won't face insurmountable debt to finance degrees that do not pay off. So in their minds, they're like, no, we're rescuing people from themselves. Like, you don't want to be a nurse. You're not going to make any money at that. Therefore, we're not going to give you enough loans to discourage you from wanting to be a nurse in the first place.
So then that
I
ultimately
guess.
cuts down on the number of people who are in these positions when there's already a doctor and nursing shortage.
Well, this appears to be the big one here. 95% of nursing students won't be impacted by the borrowing cap.
Then what the fuck? Like,
So is this like a nothing? Is this just like, look, we're doing something, and they aren't? Maybe this will matter in a few years.
yeah,
when
maybe
it
well,
costs
that's what
$1
I'm saying.
million
Is
to
this
go to college.
a soft shift to be like, if we just straight up say these things are going away because of AI, or a lot of them, or a lot of this administrative parts of the job is going away, but if we say that, people will get really pissed and think that like AI is taking their jobs. But if we don't say that and instead reclassify as what it is, or is it to try to get you to take the loans, but you have to like say it's something else? Like this just is so confusing to me. I just don't understand like who really benefits and who is harmed by this, because it just doesn't make sense. I cannot see I cannot see the point and the purpose in what we're talking about here, and what this ultimately means. So it's like, yeah, it's like, oh well, if nobody's going to be impacted, but also we don't want you to take out these big loans. Like what? Like, are you trying to
see where capitalist
zero
brain would
here?
make. I could see where capitalist brain would make this make sense, because this other line, the press secretary for the education, blah blah, says, "We expect the institutions charging tuition rates well above market prices will consider lowering tuition thanks to these reforms." As in, like, we aren't going to let people take out loans high enough to cover your bullshit prices. Therefore, you need to lower them, or you're just going to get no one. And I think in reality that absolutely would not do what they say it's going to do. But I could see how someone could convince themselves. They're like, well, look, but how about we try to lower tuition by just saying we won't let people borrow as much as you want to charge. Therefore, you must lower your prices so it's within borrowing limits.
Yeah,
But that sounds more like poor people can't get the degrees. It just
right,
goes back
yeah.
to this, like,
And that's just really confusing to me. It's like, what is the ultimate goal here? Because if they want you to think it's like, oh, it's an economic safeguard, but what is like their literal motivation? Because they don't do nice shit. Nobody does. So like, what is that? And if you sit there and say it's not a professional degree, like, okay, does that mean then like so like education, for example, says including teaching master's degrees. Okay, so does that mean like if your master's degree is no longer valid, a professionally valid teaching degree, that you have to pursue a doctorate or a PhD of, then to be considered professional, but
it
which
seems
would
that
negate what you just said.
It seems that professional degree is just like a designation that sets off various rules. Because rules are like, okay, but this only applies to professional degrees, so they're changing which degrees those rules apply to. I could imagine that in a few years, when it costs $900,000 to get a bachelor's degree or whatever, that maybe this will become important. Because like, I certainly don't think the solution is, no, you should let them take out unlimited debt. You should be able to go $1 trillion into debt to be a nurse. Like, that's not the way I want to go either. The real solution is, the real problem here is like, why does it cost such an insane amount of money to do a thing that we need? We need nurses. We don't have enough nurses. I mean, Jesus Christ, New York City. Hey, remember when they fired a shit ton of nurses over COVID and then didn't rehire them?
And when I first heard this, like my first understanding of it was like, okay, you're saying then that like these, like you don't need these degrees anymore like to do these. They're like, I'm an audiologist now. Like you just,
I think they're just
like,
not
what?
handing out loans for it. Like they don't want to give you a certain amount of loans to go get a
Right.
master's in education anymore. It's like, all
Yeah, and
right.
we have Neil in the chat says professionals doth protest too much. LOL. Professionals ought to profess the value of their credentials harder, perhaps. Yeah, and maybe that's got something to do with it. Like, is there something like from, because it's like, who is behind this? Who's pushing for this? Is it the education lobby who want to charge infinite dollars, or is it the loan people who are tired of being defaulted on, or is it just the government meddling and doing what they do because they just do dog shit stuff all the time? Like,
Is this supposed to be like anti-woke or somehow? You know what I mean?
because like what ultimately would happen is then we'd have people less pursuant of these degrees, because they'd be like, well, I cannot take out what I cannot afford to be a social worker, or some shit like this, right? And this is stuff that primarily, again, it was education degrees, nursing, social work, public health, physician assistant, occupational therapy, physical therapy, audiology, speech language pathology, business masters, engineering masters, counseling, and therapy degrees. So, the vast majority of those, some are stupid, but the vast majority of them are like people helping, like social work, right? Like, so, like, do you really need that heavy of a degree to be a social worker anyways? So it just makes no sense to me. I just cannot see, like, even from an economic standpoint, like what the purpose of doing this sort of thing is because it's like, if you're just going to be like, okay, I went to school and it said I got this diploma and it says that I did this many hours of training to do whatever.
It does not look like they're invalidating degrees, which that would be a much crazier thing. It's like if they're like,
that's
Trump
what I'm
now
trying to
says
figure out too.
no
What
nursing
about if you already
degrees
have
count. Just
right?
like,
Yeah, these don't count anymore. Look, it's like that was my thought too. It's like, okay, you're a nurse, right? So that you want to go work at another hospital, but it's like, oh, your degree doesn't count anymore. Like, what the fuck? Like, I don't.
Wow.
I seriously, it's like zero results are turning around in my head when I think about this, because I just cannot see, even if it was, let's say it was completely honest and legitimate, and they really were trying to save people from like terrible debt. Like, let's just devil's advocate here, like, then why would this be the route to do that? Why don't we just say that there's going to be like we're mandating that schools cannot charge, there's a cap on how much you could charge to get X degree, instead it's coming from the lending side of things. So that seems to be like, okay, well, the lenders are tired of being defaulted on then.
Is this just the like, no, we're doing something.
Right?
We're doing something. We're fixing education by doing what?
So
I don't know, but we're doing something.
this might be something that we see play out. And Time Traveler makes a point too. It's a lot of these are mostly women dominated occupations, so it could be again a slight against the whole what was Project 2025 type stuff idea of that. Even though that itself is like bullshit, but that was also again just a distractor while they just called it other shit and did what they wanted anyways. But it is this sort of, a lot of these therapist roles and social worker roles and educational roles are dominated by women. So is that again another backdoor way to keep women from accessing these degrees? There is just so much confusion about this, and I hope that they're called on, some generalists in the room will call on them to explain this. But this really, I think the country's pretty much owed an explanation on this in the world, because it's like, if you go to like Mexico or Canada with your bullshit degree, or you have to go to another country to finish a degree, because some people will go to other countries to get a doctor a degree in nursing or some sort of medical field and come back, and sometimes here they're accepted and sometimes not, but a lot of the time they're looked down on or treated like, well, you took a shortcut, or that's a bullshit degree and you didn't pay like I paid, so you're not real, so there's a lot of marginalization because of people who paid in the fees here, and then people who did it elsewhere. So and then so I don't know, I feel like I I should have an answer or a thought on this, but it's just like, what is the motivation behind this? Because if it, somebody, and I should say like, well, the lenders were tired of not getting paid back. Okay, like that that would say that like, oh well, the market's flooded then for nurses, and then people would just take out the loans and then they'd give up on it and they wouldn't pay it, and they just go work in a library or some shit. But that's not really what they're saying about this kind of thing, and we know that for a fact that is not the case, that it's a very understaffed situation. So I just don't see any purpose for this, and I really hope that we get some answers for this coming up, because this stuff just doesn't make any sense. And it depends on like, are we looking at something that's going to like, well, I think it would harm minorities and women more than it would, because just by nature of the field. And yeah, again, why specifically these areas of degree? Why choose these of all that could be chosen? Like, why not something else? Like, if you said something like, oh, like engineering degrees, or maybe I did, oh yeah, engineering masters is on there, so I guess that's more male dominated. But primarily this list, I think, would be more female and minority dominated, and I wonder if that's not part of why these ones were chosen. Yeah, so we're at the top of the hour. If you have any last thoughts, throw them out our way. We're gonna keep on the story and see if there's not some more clarity for this. But I do hope that they at least ask. That we have some journalists who are in the room who are like, could you please clarify what the hell this means? Or ask, calls up the Lady McMahon and asks for a statement, right? Like, so I think that we should. I think that we a lot of people are going to be wondering now what this exactly means. If you have one of these degrees, you should be asking, what does this mean for me? If you are currently pursuant to one of these degrees, you should be asking, what does this mean for me? So it's primarily if you are, a female or a minority group, that and talking to other people, people you're going to school with or something, try to get a consensus here what's going on here, because we have not been able to make sense of this in this last few minutes. I know that, but I know that there has to be. I think we just added more confusion to the whole thing. But that if we can't figure it out, then I think that there's a lot of other people who are probably asking these same questions. But I am not seeing nearly as much coverage on this as Epstein stuff and all the other things that we talked, Mamdani stuff, and the other things we've talked about in this hour. So send us a message if you have an idea or some thoughts about it for when we come back around again, or if you have any good sources about this, or if this affects you personally, because we'd like to understand a little bit more about what's going on here and why this was just sort of like meh, like whatever, and nobody's really talking about it. So we'll try to keep talking about it as that goes. But we at this point we are right at the top of the hour. So thank you for joining us for this sometimes confusing episode. We hope that you have at least a restful few days in the next few days, whether you celebrate or you don't, or you do it your own way. I'm a Thanksgiving hater. So like, well, traditional Thanksgiving. But so like, I understand if it's not for you, if you don't want to do it. But
I have a parting Mamdani thought. And again, it's not specifically him. It's the fact that one smiley, conventionally attractive man can get on the TV and everyone's like, here he is. This is socialism. Well, oh yeah, and if you've watched me for a long time, you're also aware that I had my ass entirely destroyed because I was in a room with the wrong kind of communist, and Zamdani. I'm just gonna call him Zamdani. I'm gonna combine. I saw people calling him Ziomdani Mamditler, which very funny to me. I think it's very cute. Zioron Mamditler. Here he is, 2022, or actually no, here. Mamdani tells that he wants Hakeem Jefferies to stay Democratic leader and become Speaker if Democrats win the House. And then you have Mamdani in 2022. After at least 2,251 Palestinians were killed over the course of July 2014, way before October 7th, Hakeem Jefferies got on stage at a rally in New York City and paraphrased George Wallace. Israel today, Israel tomorrow, Israel forever. If Jefferies is considered a progressive, the term has lost all meaning. I agree, 2022 Mamdani. And then you have, of course, the comment here. It's like, you all just don't understand what politics actually looks like. You have to just repeatedly eat shit and alienate your base to signal total total co-option to the ruling class as soon as you're elected. If you ever want to govern effectively, you have to retract all of your critiques, or else the Dems won't work with you. The only option is to weekly lick neo-McCarthyite taints on live TV. It's like, yep, you guys just don't get it.
Yeah, you don't understand how politics
ball.
works. Yeah, we've been saying this the whole time about this. It's only a matter of time, and then they did. As soon as he started fucking up, the apologists immediately started coming out with their verbal gymnastics about he's going to tell Trump what? He's Trump's worst nightmare. Take note, Trump.
This is actually 10D chess. I thought that's what Trump
right?
fuckers did. Oh, this is all 10D chess, actually. I thought that was MAGA's thing that you all made fun of them for, and now here you are.
And it's always, you don't understand how politics works. Things
Grow
happen
up.
incrementally. You have to not be a one policy voter. Like all the greatest hits, right? Like it's always the same dumb shit. So that's another thing we will be following, considering he's not even in office yet. So there's going to be a lot to talk about. Because if he started to fuck up, then suddenly a scandalo will break out, and I don't think he wants that, and I don't think that they want to do that because he's probably already been promised we will take you to the top if you play ball.
Either Mamdani will be he's just Nancy Pelosi, AOC, Obama 9.0 or whatever, or he will be removed from office. You'll never hear about him again after this.
Right.
He wouldn't make it through his first term.
It depends on how he
mayor.
performs and how he plays the game. And now, was he I'm not an expert here. So was he born in the United States? I'm not talking about like
yes,
citizenship.
I'm pretty sure.
He was born in the United States.
At least I've never heard anybody talking
we
about him
discussed his age. He's not yet 35 years old, so it's like eye roll for me because I am old. But then he meets
no, he was born in Uganda. Can't
he wasn't born in. Okay,
Sorry.
So the highest office he could hold, I think, is Speaker of the House. Then.
Well, actually, I could look it up. Was it a military base? Because
that might make a difference. That might make a difference. I don't want to put the cart ahead of the horse here. I'm just saying.
He's younger than me. Fuck. Okay.
You're right. Yeah, damn it.
October 91, baby.
We're sitting here yelling at our screens on the internet.
How come Mamdani gets to prostitute the American people to the interest of international bankers? Why can't that be me?
Why can't that be me? Exactly. Right? What have I done? No, that's kind of the idea. Like either we're looking at somebody who's going to be a one-off, or we're looking at somebody who's going to be like the new Democrat celebrity, or we're potentially looking at someone who has made a deal with the devil to say, if you play ball here, we can take you all the way to the top, whatever his top might be. Because now we're a little bit confused about where he was born.
He wants to be Hakeem Jeffries, and they're setting up to be the next Hakeem Jeffries. So,
right?
Hooray! Hooray! I hope
so
you do.
He might not be able to make it up to presidency, for the technicalities, but he could get maybe up to Speaker of the House at that point. So. Well, this was a conversation. So take care, you guys. I hope that you at least get, a little bit of rest in the next few days or the weekend. Don't do Black Friday shit, for God's sake. And the deals they do shitty deals. It's all fake on Black Friday because they raise the prices ahead of time and then they discount them and act like, oh, look at these deep discounts. Wait till a lot closer if you have to do some shopping. I don't even know who the hell can afford shopping at this point anyways.
I'm not getting anybody anything.
Yeah, right? At this point, I haven't done Christmas in 4 years. I can't
We're gonna go out to eat. That's it. There's your Christmas present. We had dinner.
Right? Yeah, we ate a food. Exactly. I paid my goddamn house taxes, so I get to live here for a while longer. Happy Christmas. So everything fucking sucks. I know that doesn't, that's a cold comfort if you got kids. I understand that. But it's just if you're adults at this point, just tell the other adults in your life, we can't fucking afford this. This is stupid. And it sucks because I was always a big fan, not for the capitalistic or religious reasons, but I just really enjoyed Christmas my entire life. I've always been a Christmas enjoyer.
My greatest hope is that we have all these news stories about how nobody spent any money this Christmas. And I'm good.
That actually would be a good thing, honestly. It really would, because
the economy's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, right. Because you keep getting told that the economy is fine. Meanwhile, they're trying to do everything they can to hide jobs reports. and make sure that you don't actually know, because that's the real indicators of like how, like if you know, jobs are shit and there's no jobs, then nobody is making any money. So I will just continue to talk if I don't stop. So just go and try and enjoy the next couple of days the best you can.
Buy me gold. It's at $4,000 an ounce.
Go. And then don't do Black Friday and try to
Do
spend your money
Gold Friday
wisely.
by sending me gold.
Yeah, right.
P.O.
Yeah,
Box,
don't let
5
people pressure you into spending money you don't have. I think that's what's really, unless you're sending it to Jared, like he says, like give me the
P.O.
gold.
Box 5594. Send all of your gold.
Send your
Please.
gold to a good I can't even think anymore. But thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm out of it now. I'm holiday brain, even though I don't really intend to do anything. But
I'm gonna refill this cup with more coffee and liquor.
yeah, no coffee and alcohol, and do whatever the fuck you want today. That's what's gonna
Yeah.
happen. Yeah. So if you you go fill your own coffee cups with alcohol and coffee, and enjoy it, and then do it this weekend, and have a good time as best as you can, and don't let other people get you down. And we will see you again. I don't know, next week. What's the calendar like? I think so. I think we will not be back. We will, we're going to take a little bit of a break at the end of the year. But we should be back with you by next week, and so on. So, all right, enough. We will see you guys later. So take care.